Okay, let's see here. We can do a quick test, make sure everything's okay. Yes, hear that. Speaking pause. Okay. Okay, guys, I'm going to get you promoted here. And we will get started. All right, we got lots of people coming on. Tom, Teresa, Randy, Mike. Couple of mics.
Good evening, Gary.
Hey there. Is that Teresa?
It is.
Hi, Teresa. How are you?
Doing pretty good. And you?
Doing pretty good.
Well, you're looking great.
Oh, thanks. Appreciate it. I'm eating well, sleeping well, and exercising. And trying to, reduce stress as much as possible. You remember my morning ritual. That I think that's really the key is every day, as soon as I wake up, prayer, meditation, and then exercise in that order. And
Well, that's awesome. It looks like it's working great for you.
oh, thanks. It doesn't prevent problems, but it sure helps you be in a better state of mind to address them when they occur,
Oh, I'm sure of that.
Yeah. And but we tell you what, lately it's been a lot of fun. So I got a new bike. Well, it's a used bike, but it's new to me. And paddle boards. We've been able to do that a little bit in the last couple of weekends. And then we got this fire. It's not a pit. It's like a I don't know how to describe it. It's like a fire, like an outdoor, like a chimenea, but it's square and tall. And we used it this weekend watching the stars. And I don't know if you guys knew this or know this because it's not too late, but Jupiter is as close to the Earth as it's been since 1963. And so we could see it plain as day Saturday night. And actually both nights. It's the biggest thing out there. You can't miss it. So it's in the southern sky going from east to west. And that'll be true for everybody, probably I would say after 9 p.m. and before midnight, sometime in that time frame, So any stargazers in the crowd besides me?
Oh, I love that kind of stuff.
Yep.
So we're probably seeing it a little bit later on the West Coast then.
It'll be, well, it's everything should be relative. Your sun's going to go down probably a little bit after 8, because I know when I've been out west, like the sun sets 8:30 on the East Coast, you get a lot of remaining light well after that time on the West Coast,
Right.
But I think the time frame should be pretty close because it's, the time zones switches.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
That's true. Hadn't thought about that. The rotation is still going to be the same.
Yeah. So, hey guys, everybody can hear me okay? And sounds okay?
Yeah,
obviously got a new toy.
Ooh, awesome.
So her name's Donna Marie. Dawn, we call her. She's in the Philippines. She's our new social media. I don't know if you call her a guru, but that's her sole purpose is social media. And the first thing she said was, do you have a microphone? And I said, not really. She said, you need to get one. She said, do you have a camera? And I said, well, I have the one on the computer, and I had a Sony video camera. She said, no, you need to get one. So in any case, I'm following instructions. And I can tell you what, guys, I'm going to have her do some type of a class for us. She's in the Philippines, so she's working from like 9 to 6 Eastern. So that'd be 6 to 3 Pacific time, but that's middle of the night over there. So I don't know that she would want to come on the class with us unless I just completely altered her schedule for a day. But what I thought she could do is maybe work with Gina's virtual assistant, Eva, to go through what she's doing on social media, and we record it, and then we can send it out to everybody, because it's not that complicated. It's just stuff I knew was out there. I just didn't know what it was. I mean, I understand the fundamentals and the basics of Facebook and YouTube and all that, understand how to get on and set up an account. But all the little nuances, like using hashtag keywords, things like that. While we're using keywords and we're hashtagging, in other words, we weren't hashtagging keywords. any case, she's doing short little videos too. And one of those videos was, let's see, who was that? Boy, my memory's getting really bad here. Somebody told me it's just age, and I think, no, it's just, I don't know what it is. Watching too many stars. But Jay Connor, she took the video of him teaching class and broke certain little segments out. Well, one of them went absolutely crazy. So within 3.5, less than 4 days of her putting it out there, it had over 4,000 views. First time we've ever had it happen. So anyways, we're going to learn from her, and we're going to record it, and we're going to share it with you guys. Okay. You don't have to have a specialist. You don't have to have a big account or a big budget. Just do the basic stuff. And what she's doing is really, it's already working. It's only been a couple of weeks. So any case, hey, do we have any folks from Central Florida here? I know Mike Arthur, you're on the East Coast, and hopefully you won't get it too badly, but I know the folks in Tampa, like Betty, will likely not be on class, because I'm sure if you're watching the weather, you're seeing they're getting, pretty much a direct hit from the hurricane. So as a result,
I don't think it's hit yet, Gary. I'm below her. It should be hitting
yeah?
me first.
It's not gonna
Oh.
hit until Wednesday. My kids are in
Yeah.
Tampa.
Oh, we
Yeah,
know
they're
what,
saying Wednesday, Thursday, I think now.
Yeah, it's gonna hit north of Tampa, probably up around past Spring Hill,
Mhm.
Fernando County, up past there, when it hits. So Tampa's just gonna get the wind and the rain, hurricane
okay.
gust and stuff. That's my prediction,
Yeah.
not their prediction.
Well, I know what it is. She's from Michigan. She's only been in Florida a couple of years. I think this was the first real threat for her. And I didn't realize that when I was texting with her. I said, look, just, batten down the hatches, take care of your family. We'll have you on another night. But I grew up around this stuff all over the East Coast, Carolinas, Virginia, Florida. And, the thing, everybody knows this, it's been around hurricanes. It's the tide makes all the difference, what direction the thing's coming from and the tide. If you hit it high tide, category 1 can push up a lot of water and cause flooding. But after that, it's the winds. Winds just do all kinds of damage. So, but if it's a low tide storm, we've been finding category 3 hurricanes, but category 3 high tide, that's what Hugo was. And you saw what that did to Charleston, right? Well, unless you're younger than 30, if you're younger than 30, you don't know what I'm talking about. So, but in any case, Hurricane 5, obviously serious business. I don't care what tide it is. Those winds are going to cause problems. So in any case, so I'm going to teach tonight what I was going to teach next week, which is doing the calculations and analysis on flips. So back in July, August timeframe, we had several requests to go over the calculations. How do we know if a property's a good flip? How do we know if a property's a good rental? So what we're going to do is we're going to do the flipping tonight. I'm not going to get into all the details about, how to find a flip and all that. If we have time, I can stay on and we can keep talking about those things. But we're really going to talk about the analysis part, which is really key. If right now, I don't think Gina's on yet, guys. So let me keep promoting everybody. Let me check alphabetically. Nope, she's not on yet. So I'm going to keep promoting it here for just
You
a
want to
second.
make me
Oh,
co-host and I can help?
Andre,
there?
yes, thank you very much. Let's see, Andre LaFountain. Okay, thank you, Andre. Wait, do I need to make you? Yeah, you need to be co-host. That's right. So what I will tell you though is this, guys. We'll get into the calculations, and there's two spreadsheets I'm going to show you tonight. I want to go over the basic calculation of determining a good flip. But what I will tell you fundamentally is this: flipping is definitely much easier and much more recommended when you're coming out of a recession and you're heading up, right? The market's heading up, which was what was happening from 2012 to this past year. I'm not saying you can't flip now. It's just there is every day that goes by, there's more risk with flipping right now. And it's all about the economics. Remember, Fed has just raised the rates again by 75 basis points. That's 3 times so far since beginning of the summer. By definition, we are in a recession. I know it doesn't feel that bad right now. Everybody's still got multiple offers and things like that. So it's kind of hard to feel the recession, but I'm pretty sure you're going to be feeling the recession coming down the road here. I hope it's not going to be that bad. But the point is this: would you want to try to flip a home when the market's heading down? I mean, I wouldn't want to do that. It's difficult enough flipping a home in good times. Because remember, when you're flipping a home, actually, anytime you're selling home, you've got to skate where the puck is going. And in hockey, hockey player doesn't skate where the puck is, they skate where the puck is going. So just like in hockey and real estate, you have to look and see which direction things are going. What's pricing doing? Is it going up or is pricing going down? Whatever it's doing, you want to price ahead. You want to project forward and try to predict where the puck's going to be and price it that way. Well, consumers as well as I do. Do you know any consumer that wants to price their house lower than what the market's selling for now? Has anybody ever had any luck with that? It's nearly impossible. Human nature is going to dictate the result of that argument. They're going to think you're crazy, but we know that that's what you have to do. So in any case, long story short, I'm not trying to scare you. I don't want you to deter your clients and say, oh, you better not be flipping right now. What I would tell them to do is to do some studying and do some analysis and come to their own conclusion. In fact, you can have them take the flipping program, the flipping training program. It's a couple $100 for them, and I think you guys get a like a kickback, like I don't know, we can't call it a kickback, but a referral fee for someone you brought in to take one of those training programs. The benefit for you is now you get an informed, educated flipper, okay, which is way better than one that's not. And believe me, you help somebody flip a home and it doesn't go well, you're not going to do any more business with them. So it's really, really smart to help your clients become educated, especially when it comes to investing in real estate. And they can take those training programs. It's like $395 or something. They don't get all the benefits you get. They're not going to get coaching and the really flow system. They're not going to get, all the marketing campaigns. They're not getting any of those things. They're just getting the basic training program. That's it. So keep that in mind or write that down. This microphone does work. I just barely tapped it in it. Sorry, I'm easily entertained. So, but back to this. Right now, people should be looking more at rentals. Again, you can flip anytime. Believe me, I've had people flip homes in recessions, but you got to really be selective. So in any case, any questions so far? I just wanted to preface this discussion with current events right now. Any questions, suggestions? You guys okay?
No, that makes perfectly great sense.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Anybody ready for ice cream? I got sticky buns later.
I've got
Okay.
a peach pie going in the oven.
Oh, there you go. Yep. Oh man, I could use one of those. I love peach pies, peach everything. Peach was on ice cream too, by the way. So in any case,
Hey, Gary.
yes, ma'am.
Hey, I did have somebody call me today. She's got a 1031 exchange going and she wants to purchase one for rental and one for a flip, but in the very bottom of the market. So should I
Okay.
discourage her on that?
Okay, she wants to do a rental and a flip.
She wants to buy two. She wants to do one rental and do another flip.
Well, the thing is we have to be careful what we say. You know what I mean, Susan? Because we're not economists, but I would definitely encourage her to just look at the facts. Interest rates have been increased 3 times already in literally the last 4 months. Within the right, June, July, August, September. Yeah, 4 months. That's pretty dramatic. That's really dramatic. I don't think the Fed's ever actually done that before on record. They've done an increase, but not 3 big. Those are major increases. So, in any case, it's also the time of year, and you're in Lynchburg, so you're going to have the seasonal effect too. She could buy a house now, remodel it, and try to. Next thing you know, it's Thanksgiving, and it's not too easy to sell a house between Thanksgiving and Christmas. So here's what I recommend. This is just my tell her. This is just my opinion. If I was her, instead of trying to do 2 things at once, I would focus on a rental right now because you can't go wrong with a rental. I don't care which way the market's going. A rental is always going to make you money, no matter what way the market goes. Get that taken care of and get that underway. Rent it, remodel, whatever she's got to do. And then that'll give her time to watch and see what the market's going to do. And if it's going to be a mild recession over in 18 months, that kind of thing, yeah, go ahead and flip. It's not the end of the world. She might have to lower expectations, but let's say things turn out like they did in late 2007. Boy, I wouldn't want to flip a house, and and I've flipped a lot of houses. I would definitely. I mean, just to give you a little bit of background, literally July 30th, 2007, I had flipped a house. I sold a house, got my money. It was $75,000. A nice payday. I was happy, but I was concerned because I'm watching the stock market do like it's doing now. And I thought I better sit tight. Thank goodness I did, because it tanked at the end of August. Anybody remember that? Yep. And then throughout the next several months, everything just came to a screeching halt. It was horrible. And I'm thinking, boy, I'm so glad I didn't do another flip, because that's what I was thinking. I'll just do another flip, but I didn't. I went back and bought some rentals. So share with her my story. Again, nobody can predict how long or wide or deep this thing's going to be, but we do have the numbers, and the numbers are pretty clear. This isn't like an ambiguous thing. It's pretty clear. We just don't know how severe it's going to be. So when I look at upside potential versus downside risk, my gut tells me to go for the rental right now. And let's let this thing settle out. See what the impact's going to be on the marketplace with this interest rate, their interest rate raises, because we do still have more demand and supply. Okay. Now, I know, and some of you obviously probably know this too, that's going to change when you raise the prices of a commodity dramatically, like we've seen the last few years, and then you follow that with dramatic increases in the cost of borrowing money. I mean, common sense says it's going to knock a lot of people out of the market. But I mean, would you guys agree? A lot of people that would have bought a house last year just simply aren't going to be able to do it now. Like, I can't afford that. I can't afford 6.5% when it was 3% last year. And prices haven't abated yet. We did see a cutback in July, about 10% across the board, but that was just a normal correction. So I know I'm going along with this answer, guys, but it really is important, because this is one of those times in history we'll look back, we're either going to get it right or we're going to get it wrong. And I'd rather focus on the certain things like rentals when the downside risk is higher, the upside potential is potentially lower. You see what I'm saying? That's why I'm saying what I'm saying to Susan. So she has some resources. I'd have her do a rental first. And if she wants to get on a call with me, I'm happy to share any resources we have, any experience I've got with her. Is she a seasoned veteran investor, Susan?
I don't know. I didn't get into that far with her. I know she's doing a 1031 like kind exchange. So I don't know.
She's got well,
She's
that's
done
another thing.
at least one. But Gary, here's another question just from
Mhm.
what you were saying. I was thinking that if you start with a bottom of the market property,
Mhm.
that there always are going to be people who are looking for the inexpensive homes. But then on the other hand, as you just mentioned, the interest rates are going up. So maybe first time home buyers are going to still have a harder time getting in to
Yeah.
homes.
What? Yes, it's going to, believe me, banks are absolutely starting to tighten the belt. They
Right,
will.
right.
They would have approved last year, aside from interest rates. Put interest rates aside for a second. Their propensity to approve people is going to be less today than it was last year. See, remember, financial institutions are already laying people off. Remember I showed you that back
Yeah.
in late July or early August? Well, it's actually gotten more. There's more banks laying people off and lenders laying people off, because they understand they don't watch the news. They watch the facts, and the facts tell them there's a greater risk of a worsening recession, and less revenue, less profit, less GDP, less everything. Growth is going to slow down. It actually already has. That's why we're in a recession, because 2/4 of a negative GDP, that's a recession. We hit it. So, I mean, it's going to be less productivity, less commerce, less business, and when it costs them more to make money. So in other words, remember, the banks are paying, they're borrowing money too, and they're paying more money to borrow money. That's why they have to raise rates on the consumer. So they're looking ahead, and I always like to say to myself, you know what? I'm going to watch what the banks are doing, because the reason they're at the top of the food chain is they're pretty good with money. They're pretty disciplined. They put the blinders on. They focus on the facts. I know people hate them sometimes, but let's face it. I'd rather have bankers be disciplined and tight-fisted when it's necessary than be loosey-goosey and throw the whole country into a depression. I mean, I couldn't imagine anything worse, you know? So any case, I'm not going to say 100% don't flip a home, but I would say is encourage her to look at the facts and look at the data. Plus for her to, you know, for her to flip a home, for her to buy a home that's an investment property, it's going to be a flip. That'd be she might have a hard time doing that in the time frame. Remember, in a 1031 exchange, you got 45 days to identify the property or properties, right? And 180 days to close. The closing part's not the hard part. I mean, with single family homes and duplexes, you can close them in 30 days. But the identification part, it's harder now to find the properties. Would you guys agree? So that means that 45-day identification period is a lot more critical because of the way the market is. We still have tight inventory. But on a rental, I mean, she could buy a rental in Lynchburg. She could buy it in the 3 or 4 counties around Lynchburg, and you know, probably make a good enough deal where she's going to make some money on it, and then quickly and easily satisfy her exchange requirements. And by the way, Susan, she definitely should talk to a professional because there are multiple ways to do an exchange. There's one way you can identify 20 properties. It doesn't matter, 25 properties if you want, as long as you buy 1 or 2 or one or many that satisfy the exchange requirements. The other option is you identify the specific ones you're going to make offers on, you're going to buy, and then you got to close those in 180 days. So she needs to be with a pro, somebody that knows her stuff in the exchange world, because there's multiple ways they can skin that cat, and there's other things she can do that and this is going to get way beyond the scope of this class tonight. Things she can do with certain requirements about if she's going to live in the property or not live in the property, if she's going to sell one, if she's sold one that she did live in for 2 years. All those things matter because it gives her different opportunities. But most attorneys don't know these things, right? So she should definitely Google 1031 exchange intermediary, excuse me, in the Central Virginia, you know. So that'd be number one. You know, this is, guys, just, I know we're way off subject right now, but this is why I don't do 1031 exchanges anymore, because they're so strict. And if you don't meet the date requirements, they don't care if you're Mother Teresa or Gandhi or the president. They do not waver from those rules. And all that money you planned on saving when you bought the last product, because chances are she's rolled over another exchange. So that's what exchangers do. They roll this one over to the next one. They roll that one into the next one, and it compounds. Eventually, you either go to heaven and your heirs start with a new basis, or you got to pay the piper. And what happens is most people go through life and experience a life-changing event, you know, death, divorce, loss of job, whatever. You need that money. So you have to sell a property that you bought in an exchange, and you can't sell it through an exchange. You can't buy another property because you need that money to live. And all of a sudden all those taxes, and I've seen it happen. A friend of mine in Colorado had $3 million in taxes. Okay. Very painful. So do you think he's a big fan of 1031 exchange? Nope. It's one of those things, looks good on paper, but it's quite difficult. And you know, let's face it. Do you have a lot of things already to take care of and manage in your lives to keep track of? I know I do. You know, so there are things you can do, like using trust. Trust is a great way to buy and hold properties and sell them and all that. And it's a great alternative to using 1031 exchange. So any case, yeah, set up a call, Susan. I don't, that's one of the things we do is allow you guys to bring in your clients and get a quick half-hour phone call, you know,
Thanks.
or Zoom call. Yeah, thanks. So I see you're wearing your jacket this time.
It's gotten chilly.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So, okay. You guys ready to look at some analysis forms for flipping? Okay, good. I think I already got one up. So let me go back here. At least I thought I did. Nope, I don't need that anymore. Okay, here we go. All right. You always start off by going to your dashboard, and I should have done this I should have gone and start off at the beginning. So you go to the website, Real Estate with Gary Wilson.
Hey, Gary, can you
yes.
share your screen?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you. There he goes. Okay. You already start off, just going to the website, realestatewithgarywilson.com, click on the members area, right, where it says members, log in, and then you go to your member resources, right? So if you go back to the dashboard, and this is what you'll see after you log in. Sorry, the internet is a little bit slow today. Must be the storm. I tell you what, let me maybe I can intercept that. Let's download these two forms. Okay, that looks like I got that in just a nick of time. The first one you want, the first form you always fill out is the property inspection report. Okay. Well, this thing is extremely slow tonight. Good Lord. Is anybody in Western Pennsylvania besides me? Is anybody having slow internet challenges today? Yep. Okay, here we go. All right, there's two forms. One is the property inspection report, and one is the rehab analysis report. Okay, we always do this one first. So I'm going to start off from the position that we're going to assume you've already been working with your clients. You've already identified some properties to go check out. You've done the desktop analysis as best you can. You and your client together, you narrow it down to 6 properties. You go visit the 6 properties, right? And you're going to walk through for the first time. And this is the form you want to use. Now, if you're really good, you'll have your laptop with you. Okay. And you'll have Really Flow on your laptop. Maybe you have to use a hotspot on your phone. But before you do that, I mean, you can go through with your laptop with your client. But remember, the way we teach things is we want your client to do this type of work. Your job is to identify the property, grant them access to the property. At the end of the day, when all the analysis is done, help them compare apples and apples and ultimately make an offer. But when I'm going through the properties with my clients, guys, I'm bringing all these forms with me. And what I got to the point doing later on is I had them print off their own forms and bring them instead of me, So they all went through, I taught them everything I knew, and I give them all the forms, and you guys can do the same thing. All these forms, if you notice, they're in Word format, which means you can print them off, you can send them to them in a Word doc. And if you want to write this down, at the bottom here, you can edit it and put in your name and your number and your email. Okay. So download these forms on your computer, edit them to put your contact information. So your contact information is everything they see has your contact information. Okay. But I'm going to have them fill out the form, right? They're going to have the pad, the writing pad, the form, pen or pencil. I always tell them to bring a flashlight and a ball cap, because sometimes you're walking through properties and there are spider webs and stuff in the basement and you never know what else. But in any case, so assuming you get to that point, here's how we use this form. We always start with the outside first. And the reason we do that is we're going to fill out these forms in the same order that any consumer is going to come by and look at a property. So as they're driving down the street, remember, they're looking for the house number, right? And they see the house number, there's the house, and they slow down. What's the first thing they do? They look at the general surroundings, don't they? We all do. And we look at are there weeds growing up everywhere? Is there bare spots in the lawn? Are there shutters hanging off? Or does it look nice and well kept and pretty? They're going to be impressed by how the outside looks, curb appeal, right? So in any case, we get out of the car. First thing we do is we're tempted to go inside, but we don't. We do the outside first, unless it's pouring down rain or snow, then we do the inside first. But barring inclement weather, we always do the outside first, okay? And you just want to take notes. How's the landscaping? You don't want to do any estimates. This is not the time to do estimates. This is the time to just write down the things that need to be addressed, okay? And make sure you remember that, because you're going to have people go through with you and they're going to say, what do you think this would cost? What do you think that will cost? And what I would tell them is I said, when we're done, we're going to go to Starbucks or Panera, whatever is closest. Or if you want to go back to their house, then bring out your computer with the Really Flow and the property rehab form on there, right? And then go in and fill these things in, because all those numbers are already out there. And this will really impress your clients, okay? So in any case, you go through landscaping, take notes. Shrubbery looks nice, needs to be mulched, bare spots in the yard, whatever the case is. Pool, if you're in any of the southern or the Smile states, you're likely going to have pools. If you're in the northern states, there's greater chance that you will not have a pool. By the way, personally, I would not flip a house with a pool unless it was like, again, in Florida, Texas, Georgia would have. Yes, they're all going to have pools, so I agree. I would have to flip a house with a pool. I definitely don't want pools on my rentals. But in any case, when you're dealing with a pool, you're going to attract a lot of people, but you're also going to repel a lot of people as they get older. They don't want pools. They had pools when the kids were little, and they don't want the headaches, So just keep that in mind. If you have a pool, you're going to attract people that either already have pools or whatever reason they want pools. So keep that in mind. Any case, you want to make sure you understand if this is it's on a septic system or is it on municipal sewer. Again, this is just a personal rule of mine. I prefer to only work on houses that are on public systems, public water, public sewer. Okay. I've had houses that didn't have that. And boy, you have a septic tank problem now. Has anybody ever had a septic tank problem? Well, that stuff gets expensive, let me tell you. In any case, your sprinklers, all that stuff, you want to take all the notes you can take. Fences, sheds, swing sets, everything. Okay, now you go around while you're doing that, you're making notes on the outside of the building. I don't climb ladders. I used to, but I'm not doing that for clients. Okay, I mean, and I don't suggest you let them climb ladders either on a house they don't own, but definitely take binoculars, go up to a high point, look at the roof with a pair of binoculars, and if in doubt, this is what I always tell people, if there's any doubt at all, we're just going to bring on a contractor to come out and take a look, just to be safe. But usually you can pick out a good roof from a bad roof, any case, chimney work can be expensive. Foundation work can be expensive. Exteriors, whether it's a wood, vinyl, aluminum, brick, whatever the case is. So that's the outside of the building, all right, in the property. Then you move on the inside, and we usually go and do the systems first, right? Electrical, plumbing, HVAC, if there's gas, all the systems we do first, all right? And those are generally in a basement, unless you're in an area that doesn't have basements. On the coast, generally on the coast, you often don't have basements. But in any case, you look at the systems, okay? And if you have a basement, you want to go into the basement. Then you move upstairs and you work on the money rooms being kitchens and bathrooms, okay? We do those things first. You want to make note of any appliances that are there, what kind of shape they're in, everything, microwave, dishwasher, oven, stove, refrigerator, you name it, okay? And other than what we talked about downstairs, like the panel, the breakers and all that kind of stuff, up in the living quarters, you want to, check all the lighting, see if the lighting's working, okay? Outlets. You can get a tester, guys, at Home Depot or Lowe's for like $3.50. It's just a simple, it looks like a little outlet adapter thing. You plug it in, has 3 lights, and you read the 3 lights and it tells you if you have reverse polarity, for example. Now, you're not an electrician and probably your consumer's not either. All you're looking to do is to see if you have the 3 green lights. If you don't, if you got a red light or anything like that, you just write it down, okay? Plumbing, you definitely want to check out your satellite facilities, which was your toilets, sinks, tubs, all that. Check all those things out, and make note of everything in the rooms. Glass, windows, doors, cabinets, or anything that's glass, you want to write that down. Any other personal property, carpeting, draperies, all that kind of stuff. Very high level, very general. Okay. If you notice, there's not a lot of, we're not breaking things down room by room. This is breaking down by component, electrical, plumbing, carpeting, just in general. Okay. For the whole property. Okay. Everybody okay on this one? Is any questions? Okay. I'm going to do a quick test here. For those of you who flipped a home or have worked with flippers, so far, does this sound like the general pattern, the general flow of events that you're engaged in with your clients? And you start with desktop analysis before you ever go look at properties. Then you go look at the properties. You're going to check things out, the physical characteristics that sound pretty familiar. Or
Yes.
if you're okay, good. If you're not doing that, I would definitely study and, I mean, unless you're really successful, I don't want to change what you're doing if it's working. But I know for me, this all came about because I wanted to be more efficient. I wanted to be more accurate. I wanted to be more profitable. So the efficiency part came into the whole process flow. For example, if I'm on the outside and I see the place needs a new roof and it needs new windows, right? And the siding is bad. Well, that's three major things. And my rule of thumb is this: when I'm flipping a home, if I see three major things, I'm probably just going to go ahead and stop right there, because I haven't even gone on the inside. And I'm thinking, I would rather have a house that I'm flipping that cost me more to purchase and had a smaller remodeling project versus buy a house that I got for really cheap because it had to have a lot of remodeling, major components. And here's why: if you've ever done any big remodeling, you know that things don't always work out the way you plan. You're going to be over budget, over time, things change. Your electrician gets ill, can't show up. Well, all of a sudden you're delaying the drywall guy. Well, the drywall guy is going to delay the painter. The painter's not going to sit around waiting for 3 more weeks. He's going to go to another job. And then when he's done 4 weeks later, he'll come back to do your job. So you're delayed even more. Actually, let me see, is Michael Ussery still on?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, Michael. So what I was saying there, I mean, it's just how I evolve myself. But for me, I would rather spend more money on a house that needed less work than spend less money on a house that needs more work. I mean, in your experience, would you agree that's probably,
It all depends on what big crews I had at the time. If I had a 5-man crew, I wanted a house that didn't have to do cosmetic. When I had a 22 crew, I didn't care what the house was like. It was more the value and the price I got it at, because I had the men to do the work. So the delay, like you said, electrician or whatever, didn't matter. If you're going to sub it out, pretty houses are better for you than ugly.
Yeah. Yeah. And so if everybody doesn't know yet, Mike, tell them what it used to do.
I was a general contractor. I used to build Pizza Huts, KFCs, warehouses, Wendy's. I did a lot of restaurants, build out shopping centers, custom homes. We had a subdivision in Spring Lake Village over in Kissimmee. Remodels, you name it. If it made a bucket, it went in my portfolio.
Yeah. So, well, and thanks for sharing, by the way. But I, for me, I mean, I did a lot of my own work. I learned the hard way, the school of hard knocks, which is why I have, actually, I literally have some cuts and some dents in my hands and my feet, arms, because I, was essentially what's called a novice, a weekend warrior. But I did learn a lot, and that's where I learned that from. What's that?
I had a past client call me who just finished a remodel job of an office here last week. That's where I've been last 3 weeks.
Okay, hopefully that went well.
Yeah.
But what I learned was I would rather have somebody like Michael taking on the big jobs for me, so he can coordinate between the plumbers, electricians, and carpenters and drywall guys and painters and and flooring and cabinetry. I mean, all that has to be coordinated. And unless you're someone like Michael who has access to multiple crews, in other words, I knew maybe 3 painters, I knew maybe 1 electrician and maybe 2 plumbers and that kind of thing. So if I'm going to take on the work of being a GC, general contractor, that means if one of those guys is delayed, unless I go find other crews, the other guy's going to be delayed, right? Well, if you're a GC in the business, you can pull from different crews. That's one of the benefits of working with a GC. Yeah, it's going to cost you a little bit more, but you know what? I'm telling you, time is money. And I would rather pay Michael more than what I would normally done it if I'd done it on myself and get it done in a month, and have me do it with my guys and take 3 to 6 months. Because
a GC will cost you 20 to 30% more than you doing it yourself. profit, but scheduling is the whole trick
Mhm.
to it. This was a total office remodel. I did it in 3 weeks,
Mhm.
and I just put cabinets in and painted. That's all I did. Everything else was done by subs. So it's the biggest thing is, and it's no construction is no different than real estate. It's literally just being organized.
Yeah.
And keeping everybody on a flow chart.
Yep. Yep. And I will tell you, most of our guys, like Susan, your client, do you know, does she have a regular job already?
I don't, I didn't spend enough time on the phone with
Uh,
her, and I just met her on the phone today. So I don't know.
Okay. Oh, gotcha. But a lot of clients we work with, would you guys agree, they generally already have other professions. They have regular jobs. They're
Yeah.
doing this like on the side. So can you imagine them doing that and trying to take care of parents or raise children and try to be a GC at the same time, versus finding a guy like Michael that you know, like, and trust, and has been doing this stuff for all these years, and that thing is going to get done. Then you put your property back on the market, right? And then sell it and make your money faster. And you get to take advantage of what's called velocity. You're using your money much more quickly, that's another age old lesson. So it takes time to learn that one, but unfortunately it's true. So in any case, okay, let me go to the next form. This thing is still trying to figure things out. Let's see if I downloaded the other form here. Hang on one second. Downloads. Property inspection report. Okay, it did not get the other report. So let me go backwards. Okay, here's the property rehab form. So first thing we did was property inspection. All right. So
Don't
just
forget to share your screen again.
oh, thank you. Yeah. Let's see. By the way, whoever suggested we do this, thank you very much, because I think we haven't gone over this kind of stuff it's been over a year. I know that it has to be over a year, because I don't even remember the last time. Any case, this is where you start to get into the numbers, all right? So this is a little more involved. At the top of this rehab form, you want to identify the property and everything about it, the owner, the broker, or contact information, because this is going to be your cheat sheet for quite a while. Okay. Then you get into some of the upfront costs, what we call carrying cost. You might have an architect. So I have a client right now. I don't work with them in the field. There's another agent that does that. But he consults with me, and I have him on a regular basis bring in an architect, because he does big projects. Like right now, he's looking at a 40,000 square foot municipal building, beautiful building, by the way. But I got the floor plans, and everything else about the property. Looked at us. I said to Benny, you need an architect on this one. This thing is cut up so many different ways. I mean, it's a neat building. It had a big giant gym in it, had a shooting range, multiple offices, couple of kitchens, a garage underneath, big giant. It was a beautiful building, but it also had asbestos. And when you can either contain asbestos, or you can remove it. Containing it is less expensive, but then you're always dealing with it, and the laws could change 10 years down the road. Removing it is extremely expensive. And if you start breaking down walls and cutting in the walls and cutting in the floors to run piping and wiring and all that, you're going to get into asbestos. So in any case, long story short, architect may be part of any bigger project. Okay. Legal fees, accounting fees, insurance. You have to insure the property while you're working on it. And maybe you're paying a loan and loan fees on that. So all this stuff has to be accounted for. So Susan, make sure you share this with your client. Everybody should share this with their client, because it makes them be really honest with the numbers. A lot of flippers will say, hey, I can buy this thing for 200,000. I can put 100,000 into it and I'll sell it for 400,000 and make a lot of money. And nowhere in their figures do they account for the electric and the water and the insurance and the taxes and everything that they need to pay while they own the property. Okay. Not to mention taxes. So in any case, all that stuff you put up front here, then you get into the meat and potatoes. what are the cost of these items, a refrigerator or stove? Now, some of this stuff is actually quite easy. You just honestly, there's ProDesk at Home Depot and Lowe's. You go in with your list and they'll tell you exactly what these things cost. You can even scan it to them in an email and they'll fill it out and send it back to you. Okay. So you get all this material costs. You got to figure out the labor on your own or your contractor. But this is where we get into the bedrooms and additional rooms. How much money are we going to spend room by room by room by using the information on the inspection form that was done at the component level? In other words, electric, carpeting is all broken down by component. Here, we're breaking it down by component and by room, okay? So in any case, you put all those figures in here, right? And you can see there's a lot to this. You've got multiple bathrooms potentially. I don't know, you may have an elevator, water heaters, water softeners. Another thing people just tend to overlook is just because it's in the basement doesn't mean it's working, you know? I mean, I've seen water softeners work today and it's like any appliance, they're not working tomorrow, you know? And if you're living out in the suburbs, anywhere where there's hard water, generally you're going to need a water softener. So in any case, you add all these figures up. And again, this is something you can do on ReallyFlow, all right? And there's more here, you know, the systems and you get all the exterior work, driveway. Has anybody done any concrete work lately? That's gotten a lot, very expensive, right? Also, some of this stuff is, you might not have these mortgages, for example, but you're going to have some closing costs, cost to sell. You know, maybe there's could be some tax liens on the property, maybe you want a tax lien property. But you add all this stuff up and you calculate what your net profit's going to be. So I'm not going to fill this out as an example. I just want you to see the form and know where to access the form. And again, download it. And at the bottom, you can put in your name, your email, and your phone number. So everybody should be doing that between now and next week, is download these forms and put your contact information on there. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a basic formula to follow here. Okay. And it's this, it's the 70-30 formula. So when you're flipping a home, you need to know what your after repair value is, what the house will be worth if you're going to go resell it. Okay. And you want to know what your other costs are. In other words, cost to purchase, cost of remodeling, so forth. So at the end of the day, your after repair value needs to be accurate. You can't overestimate, you can't underestimate. If you overestimate on the after repair value, it may, you know, encourage you, if you want to call it that. It may allow you or enable you to pay too much for the property. You might be thinking, oh, I've got plenty of room here, when the reality is you don't. So your after repair value is really important, guys. And this is where you really do get more involved with your client. This is where you want to do your research, look at other comps in the area for the house that is going to be after they've remodeled. So if they start off with a 3-bedroom ranch and it turns out there's a room that could be converted to another bedroom, you know, you need to do your comps based on a 4-bedroom home, not a 3-bedroom home. Same thing with bathrooms. Is the basement finished? Is the basement not finished? Is there a garage? Is there no garage? All those things. You got to really think like an appraiser. You got to make adjustments. Does this make sense, guys? So when you're looking for comps, look at the after repair value, not what they're currently buying now. Now, based on an after repair value, you're going to back off 30% right off the bat. 20 of the 30% is for the profit for your clients. The other 10% is carrying cost, like your commission, for example. Okay. The cost of selling, there's going to be transfer taxes, all kinds of stuff. That's just a rule of thumb. 30%, knock it off the ARV, and that leaves you with 70%, you and your client, 70% to work with. That 70% must be enough to cover the purchase and the remodeling. Okay. All right. So let's just do an example. One of my early clients, helped him flip a few homes. He did a small one, maybe 100,000. Then he did another one. It was like maybe 250,000. That was really nice, by the way. And boy, did he start feeling good. He was really confident. And he said, Gary, I'm going to go after the big kahuna. I want to flip $1 million house. And this was in 2009. We were already into the recession. But what happened in the last recession, which was kind of unusual in that particular market. The luxury market didn't really take a hit yet. Okay, it was, slow, but it was cruising along. People were buying, selling $1 million homes. So I told him, I said, Joe, I just don't have the warm and fuzzies about this. I'm sorry. I know I'm conservative, but we should maybe wait and see what's going to happen, because the rest of the country is in dire straits here. I know these people have nice homes because they're good with their money, and that's why they're in nice homes. I get all that, but at some point, they could decide, hey, we're going to pull back too. So he said, don't worry, got the cash. It's all going to be okay. So we bought this house for 870,000, paid for the house. We thought, based on the numbers that remember I said earlier, you've got to look where the market's going. Okay. So at that time, the way the market was going, it wasn't going anywhere. So we said, okay, 1.3 million should be the ARV. Conservatively too, guys, it was conservative, right? And this house was magnificent. I mean, 3 stories of glass halfway around the house that wrapped around this hill, and just an amazing property, any case, he only had to put in about 180,000, right? So 1,010,000, right? And that difference was 290,000, where he was able to, if he could have sold for 1.3. Well, put it on the market. Now, here's what happened. In January of 2010, an article came out in the local paper, the major newspaper, that talked about the luxury market and how all of a sudden the transaction volume had dropped 75%. They didn't say the prices dropped. They said transaction volume dropped. 75% fewer luxury homes were being sold. Okay. Well, what happens when volume drops like that? What happens when demand drops? When demand goes down, what happens to pricing? Yep. So we tried to sell. We had open houses with food and all kinds of stuff. It was amazing. March comes, I said, Joe, it's not getting better. It's getting worse. I said, I think you need to really drop this down. He said, how much? He said, 50,000. I said, no, I think you need to go down to 1.1 million, which was a $200,000 drop off of what he wanted. He didn't want to do it. He said, nope, we compromised at 100, went down to 1.2 million. Did not move. 3 more months ago, I said, Joe, there's no telling when this thing's going to correct, when it's going to go back up again. You have to decide if you want to sit on this thing while you're paying property taxes, insurance, water, sewage, garbage, electrical, gas, you name it, right? And eventually we sold the place for $1,070,000. He actually didn't make any money on it. It was like a break-even thing. So I'm only telling you that for really 2 reasons. Number one is sometimes our job is hard to predict where the market's going when the market's not giving you clear data. In other sectors of the market, it was easier. The market was moving down. It was like, okay, you got data, you can prove it. But let's face it, there's far more houses selling at 250,000 than there are selling at 1.3 million. And remember, this was 10 years ago now, more than 10 years ago now. So that was, you can imagine, that house is pretty darn nice. And that wasn't like in LA or New York. This was in Western Pennsylvania. Back then, 1.3, I mean, this house was spectacular, So in any case, it finally hit that market sector, and it hit hard. And he paid a price, and I felt bad. I mean, he said, Gary, I'll never blame you. It wasn't your fault. You tried to tell me, and I didn't want to listen, because that's what's happened to flippers. They're successful, then they get a little bit too aggressive, and they tend to put the blinders on and ignore the facts. That's what I've seen happen to flippers. That's why, in my experience, guys, the landlords, the people that buy and hold, always outlive the flippers. I mean, it was like not even a gray area. It was like predominantly the buy and hold by clients always stayed in the business much longer. The flippers, I don't think I've ever had a flipper stay in the business more than like 3 years, So they either burned out, or spend their money, whatever, ran out of money, I don't know. Or maybe they couldn't take the stress. But the people that work with the rental properties, and Joe did, by the way, my friend, he became a good friend of mine. In fact, we just had dinner not too long ago. We switched. I took him out and he took me out the next time. So we're good friends. But that lesson was a tough one, He ended up buying several good apartment buildings, and he's doing quite well. He's retired. He's younger than I am, and he's retired and doesn't have to work anymore. So in any case, that ARV, all right, is really critical, because at the end of the day, you want to calculate what's called your maximum allowable offer. And by the way, if for those of you who are on the team, you can request to get the flipping program unlocked for you. Jody generally wants to know that you're completed with investor agent training program before you take any other program, but you can ask her to unlock the flipping program for you. And all this stuff is in there with a lot of supporting content. Okay, the charts, the graphs, and everything that goes with it. So I would definitely brush up on that. And I'll also brush up on the one on rentals too. But for this one, just remember, MAO is maximum allowable offer. So let's go back to $1 million house. Let's say we buy it for $600,000, and we know the ARV is $1 million. So if we can buy it for $600,000, does that fall within the guideline, the 70-30 guideline? Just show of hands. Raise your hand if you think the answer is yes, or type in the chat box. Does 600,000 fall within the 70-30 guideline on $1 million house? You guys are quiet. Don't be shy. So what's 70% of $1 million?
That's a lot of math.
Yeah. So 70% of $1 million is 700,000. So theoretically, we could buy the house for 600,000, and we got 100,000 left, right, to do remodeling. So if you did your homework correctly, if your client did the homework correctly, they did the inspection report followed by the rehab analysis correctly, and it said, $100,000 less, then you'd say, yep, we got a good deal. Now, so let's say the remodeling was exactly $100,000. So 600 purchase, 100,000 remodeling, $1 million sale, and you got your 30% spread for profit and overhead. Do we necessarily go out there and offer 700,000 right off the bat?
No.
No, that's the maximum allowable offer. So you need to always build in some cushion. But here's the tricky part, okay? This is why it's really important to study the market and see which way it looks like it's going, because clearly we've been at the top of the market. The last year, that's the top of the market, you can't push it too much because you're not going to be competitive. If you offer 680,000 and there's 5 other flippers, they're going to offer 700, and chances are some will offer more because they're going to cut into their profit. They're going to say, you know what? I may only make 10%, but I'll take 10% because 10% of $1 million is $100,000, and they'll take shortcuts. The risk with that is this: the remodeling project goes over budget, right? Or they really can't sell for $1 million. Maybe they can only sell for $950. That's why you want that big wide margin, because of things like that. The upside potential is not as great as you thought, and the downside risk is greater than you thought. So if you're in a soft market, this is why I was telling Susan, maybe have her client buy a rental first and then get that up and running, and then it'll give her another 1 or 2 or 3 months to figure out how severe this thing might be, this correction. Then he or she might decide, hey, we're going to buy another rental, or no, we'll go ahead and do a flip. It's easier to price low, below your maximum allowable offer, when you're at the bottom of a market or you're still coming out of a market. Okay. It's flipping at the top of the market that's extremely risky, because when the market starts to drop, I mean, if you had your license back in late 2007, you saw what happened. It wasn't like a gradual long-term thing that took years. Man, it was fast, especially in places like Florida, in Arizona, and California, and Texas. It was scary, So in any case, you want to price ahead of the market, the way the market's going, that you want to skate where the puck is. So if you think the market's going down, you do want to price ahead and go down a little bit. Now, I know you're gonna get some flack from that. I did. I made an offer on a water oceanfront condo this past summer, and I went 10% off, and I lost. Somebody outbid me, but the person who outbid me probably wasn't in real estate. They probably were just a regular consumer. So I didn't get that one, but I'll get another one. But the thing is, I knew in my heart, I don't need to be greedy. I don't need to be hasty, because chances are there's going to be more of those properties coming on the market in the next year or two. Some condo is going to have to raise their condo fee. And if you've ever been in a condo complex or done business at condo complexes, what happens when they decide to raise their HOA fee? What happens to some of those condos? They go up for sale. Yeah, people can't keep up. A lot of times they're retirees and they're on fixed incomes. And when I'm seeing condo fees now, $1,500 on condos, HOA fees, man, that's a lot of mortgage, So you raise a HOA fee from $1,000 to $1,500, $500, that hurts a lot of people. So I know that happens. So I'm willing to wait and be patient. But the moral of the story is, studying the market like I did, I looked and sure enough, the market did, and this was in Virginia. In Virginia's, the data that I used was across the board 10% drop in the month of July, So I actually was correct. I was correct in my dropping down 10% on my offer. It's just, there was another person who was willing to pay more. So any case, any questions on the after repair value or the maximum level offer? Any questions on those two figures? Okay. If you want to write this down, please write this down. You need to be as accurate as you can possibly be on the ARV. That is that's the game right there. If you nail that number, you're going to be okay. If you're too high, you might end up paying too much for the property when you first purchase it. If you go too low on that estimate, you might not be able to pay enough to get the deal, That's why it has to be right on. Plus your clients based on all their numbers on that. Yes, Pedro.
Hi, Gary. Yeah, I'm curious. It's like knowing that we're all in different markets, how do we estimate what the value of materials and labor would be?
Yeah,
for our area.
That's another reason to just have a good contractor like Michael, somebody that really knows their business. But one of the easiest things to do, PF, is if you know what the remodeling is going to require, like you need new kitchen cabinetry, you need new, carpeting, things like that. We knew exactly what we were using cabinetry wise. For a high end flip, we would use a certain set of cabinets. For a low end flip, we'd use a different kind of cabinets. For middle America, we'd use, average cabinets. For carpeting, we had carpeting we were getting for 15 a yard. We had carpeting we were getting for 37 a yard. So for each type of neighborhood and type property, we already knew the manufacturer and the grade we were using. And this is stuff that you can help your client with, but really your client should be the one doing this, but really what I'm getting at is once you know what's being done remodeling wise, then you'll know your materials. So you can go in and you can say, this is a 3,000 square foot home. You can take pictures of the house, show them the pitch of the roof, see if you need roofing shingles, they can calculate the squares, and then they can give you the pricing on the material. Okay. And sometimes they'll have a consultant there, like it's a true business consultant, and they'll say, hey, based on today's numbers, remember they're in the business, they can say the average roof is being done for $400 a square, material and labors. So if you already know your material is going to be 100 of that, then it means labor is going to be 300 of that. And remember, not only has material gone up, but labor's gone up a lot,
Gary,
Yes, sir.
I put in the chat there, it's called homewise.com.
Oh,
You can
excellent.
go to that website. It gives you put in a zip code or stuff like that. It'll give you an idea of prices. For instance, if you'll type in drywall repair, drywall installation, drywall texture, whatever, it'll give you the basics of prices in your area. They're not 100% accurate. You can find it cheaper and you can find it more expensive, but it's homewise.com.
Okay.
Wow, Michael, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Look I put it in the chat box.
Yep. You know what's funny, guys, is before I bought Flow, I talked to as many people as I could to see if I could find people who used it. And I found the guy that did use it a lot. Oh, guess where he was, Susan? He was up in Maine. He was up north of Bangor. He's not as far as you are, but he was north of Bangor. And he said it was uncannily accurate. So let me just go there. Let me do share screen again. For those of you who haven't seen it for a while or have not used it. Let's see. I know it was, there it is. Log in. I haven't used it for a while myself, but we're going to bring it up so everybody can take a look at it. You'll know exactly where it is. And there's always examples out here you can use. Oops, I thought I told them I'm not a robot. Hey, have you guys noticed lately how much more strict access is to like systems from your phone and computer? There's more, we're going to send you a text to get the code, all that kind of stuff. Have you guys notice an increase in that? Yeah. So in any case, go to analyze, right, on this left-hand side. And there's deal analyzer, repair estimator, rehab planner. So if you go to repair estimator, okay. Now imagine you sit in front of your client doing this with them. Let's just pull up an example. Let's pull up this one on Stone Run. I think that's one. Did Brianna do? I think Brianna did that one. Let's give it a second to load up. Yeah, Nashville. There you go. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. But this is what this guy, his name was John. I can't remember Susan, but real smart, good agent too, by the way. And he did his own investing. So if you look here, remember it starts with the exterior right up top. That's because you want to start with the biggest items first. What costs the most money? Start with those. That way, if you're add up three things and it's going to be over $50,000 just on those first three things, and you know the house is not going to sell for more than 300,000, and you can't get it for less than 150, you're already in trouble on your numbers, right? So just do the big things first, and that way you save yourself a bundle of time, because if you add up quickly, move on to the next property. But in any case, from what I understand, from what I remember, these figures here, like that are pre-typed in there, like they're boilerplate, these numbers, the person put in themselves. These numbers were already in there in the system. What I understand is, and I could be completely wrong, that Really Flow, they have enough analysis. They know what these numbers are, the unit cost. Now, I'm not saying you should rely on this 100% conclusively. What I would say is do one of these and do the site that Michael brought up. Let me go back to the chat box. homewise.com. Do the same thing there and just see if they're close, But in any case, this thing is unbelievably thorough. I mean, it has every single detail you can imagine when it comes to doing a roof, All right. Then you have other work, gutters, exterior gutters, exterior finish, masonry, painting. You click yes for any of those items, and it gives you a drop down with all the things you might have to pay for. Right. Unit cost. Again, this looking like they're going to spend $11,000 on the exterior. Yep. 3,278 units. So in any case, then you get down here into the, garage, landscaping, windows, type all your figures in there, how many units, right? And down here's the, concrete asphalt work, right? Add all that up, type in your figures and add it up. Then you get other things, pool, fence. Every time you click yes on one of these, it gives you a drop down with all the things you can do. Like here, interior painting, interior hardwood. Well, it looks like somebody's going to do 100 units of hardwood at $230 a foot. It's $230, right? Maybe they're just refinishing a room. That's like 10 by 10, So in any case, then you got vinyl carpeting. Then down here, you've got kitchen work and appliances. Here, they're just doing some minor repairs, nothing major there. All right. But look how much it adds up. $7,000 for just a handful of things, That's not a remodeling. That's just basically new appliances and some other stuff. Then the bathroom, and you can tell them how many bathrooms you have, right?
Hello, this Kelly.
Yep. Let's see. Mechanics,
Hello.
HVAC. Then what's down here? Oh, mechanicals. I'm sorry, it's still mechanicals. Then demo and dumpsters, add it all up, and look, you can quickly get to $50,000 a day before you blink an eye, So let me stop to share here. So just a brief little overview of the repair estimator. Would you guys agree? If you sat down in front of clients with that at their home, at a property, or at whatever Starbucks, that would probably be pretty impressive, right? So I would use that. I mean, that's my opinion. But there are other things you can use. There's another tool. I'll have to see if I can find it in my notes, and if I can, I'll send it out tomorrow. But we're past the hour here, and I want to make sure we have some time for Q&A. Any case, that's really the steps involved with doing an analysis on a flip. It didn't get into identifying the flip, didn't get any of that kind of front end work. We've gone over that before. I think we did that part back in the summer. And again, it's in the Flipping for Profit program. Just remember chapters 4, 5, and 6. Okay, 4, 5, and 6 in the Flipping for Profits program. And then back in the Investor Agent program, we give you a summary of that. I think chapter 5 is for flipping and chapter 6 is for rental. That's just real high level, just enough to speak intelligently to your investing clients. But if you want a more thorough education, go to those individual programs. Okay, the training programs. Okay, any questions, guys? It's a quiet group
No,
tonight.
it's really great to go back over this information. I know it's
Yeah.
been a long time since I've gone through it myself.
I agree. Hey, repetition is the mother of learning. I mean, it's, and what's funny, guys, is if you notice when I have podcast guests that I eventually invite to teach class, I'm learning from them. And if they do a good job educating me, and I think the subject's worthwhile, I'll definitely invite them to teach class. So we've got another one coming up, guys. This is going to be pretty cool. I think it's the 10th of October. Yes, his name's Ashley Tyson. And he's going to talk about opportunity zone investing. So I had him on a podcast. Real neat guy. Is a former athlete, played college basketball. And get this, from Indiana, and he played in North Carolina. I can't think of two states more, basketball is in their blood, man. Indiana and North Carolina. Would you guys agree? Any guys and gals, any other sports fans? Sorry, I can't help myself. But he was fun to talk to, and I tell you what, some really good information. So that would be one you definitely want to invite your guest to. So invite them to October 10th, and they're going to learn about your investor clients and other agents, anybody you're looking to partner with or attract. So what I might do is, I don't know if Andrew would be up for it, but she was supposed to teach tonight, and I was going to do what I did tonight next week. So I'm going to see if she can teach next Monday. And she was the agent on the team who's the very first agent to both cap and branch out and start her own team. She's the first person to do both of those things on the team. Other people like Bobby was the first capper. Shastine is the first person to go out and start her team right out of the gate, actually. Susan Murray's the first one on both accounts, volume of production and dollars in production in the same year. And that's the first time I've seen that, by the way. And in brokerage I own, any team I had in the past, it's the first time. Congratulations, Susan. And she's helping her children remodel a house up in Maine. I'm like, holy smokes. I want you as my mom. I'm cooking for my mom and cleaning.
I will tell my kids that you said that.
Yeah. You tell them, hey, say my team leader Gary cooks and cleans for his mom. So in any case, but congratulations, Susan. What's funny, Susan? I was looking at one of the slides from the flipping program, getting ready for tonight, and this one of the slides had the emails from that day from 2015. Guess who was the first email at the top? You.
Really?
You were the first email. I looked at it and said, how ironic is that, man? And I just emailed you earlier too. So it's good stuff. I love this business and I love what we're doing. I mean, these relationships, guys, are absolutely, they're fulfilling and rewarding, but absolutely critical too. I mean, we were talking about going to the conference. I know it's kind of late if you guys haven't signed up for the EXP conference in October 11th and 14th. You can probably still go, but I think it was Heather I was saying, early in my career, I would go for the education and the networking would kind of happen automatically. I still go for education, but for me, what I've learned over the years is the networking boy, it's hard to put a price tag on it because of all the connections you make and, being able to do joint ventures and, going to their events and things like that and having them come and teach for you. And, all these things are possible because I go to conferences and it never fails. Every time one comes around, I'm thinking, oh boy, can I go to another one? I like them. They're fun and I can meet a lot of people, but I'm really busy. Has anybody ever said that to themselves? I'm just so darn busy, but I'm always make a note to myself at the end of each conference, right? To 100% go to the next conference and I'll go to my planner because they always tell you what the next one is. And I'll put in there about 3 months before, make plans for upcoming conference. And I'll make a little note. What are the 10 top things I got out of the last one? And that's all I need to say, okay, that's it. I'm going. It never fails. It always pays off in spades, So in any case, that's my theory on conferences. Does anybody have anything you need to go over while we're here? Transaction, client, anything that's literally got you stumped?
Yeah, Gary, I got something.
Okay.
So, I'm talking to a builder, small builder.
Mhm.
She's building a few houses in a neighborhood. It actually used to be a mobile home community. So she's buying up the mobile homes, getting them out, building new homes. The homes are smaller, 2-bed, 2 baths, really affordable homes compared to, where things are right now. Between
Okay.
the 160 and 190 mark. But it's really slowed down for her. And she's looking for ways to market it. So, to get them sold. So she's thinking about doing lease purchases. And also thought about, renting them as well.
Okay.
But with the lease purchases, she really doesn't know how to do them.
Okay. So she's the builder and she has the inventory?
Yep.
Okay. In the last recession, this is what I learned from the good builders. Before that, I was a regular consumer just trying to figure things out myself. But last recession was a real education. So the last recession, the real need was rental properties. Now it's affordable housing. We need affordable housing like we need water. It's pretty bad.
Mhm.
So the last recession, we needed rentals because leading up to the recession, people were getting foreclosed on, they needed a place to live and nobody would sell to them and all that kind of stuff. So what the good builders did is they kept to stay in business, to keep their crews busy. They started building rentals and it wasn't just like single family home rentals. A lot of them were building, like the 12 unit cluster, you know what I mean? Like 3 4plexes or simply 4 floors with 3 units per floor or 3 floors, 4 units per floor. That's what they did. And they kept them in inventory. So not only did they keep their crews going, they also had rental income coming in, they had cash flow coming in, and that's how they got through the recession. Now, when it comes to lease options, we do teach that, but the main thing to remember here is lease options when you're selling are generally because you're okay giving ownership, well, not complete ownership. You're giving the right of possession to somebody who might not otherwise be able to get a loan right now. In other words, you're taking a risk. You're lending the people that traditional banks are not approving right now. So what you get in return for that is an option fee. The option fee is non-refundable and it's not a deposit. It's simply that the buyer is purchasing the right to purchase the property at a future date. It's simply a piece of paper that says, I agree to purchase this property by December 31st, 2023, right? For X number of dollars. And by the way, none of the rent goes towards the purchase either. Because here's the difference. If you do a rent to own, generally the deposit goes towards the down payment of the property. And every rent payment, some portion of that rent payment goes towards the purchase price too. So that's called a rent to own.
Mhm.
And as soon as you take that first month's rent and $100 goes to the purchase price, that person is now an owner. They have equitable interest in the property, not just possession. So going back to the lease option, lease option. Sorry, guys, I'm still getting used to having this microphone. And I'm speaking Italian tonight. My hands are going everywhere, you know? So, any case, the lease option, not one penny goes towards the purchase price of the house. And the reason is somebody defaults. So you got the option document. That option gives them the right to buy the property, exclusive right, by the way. So if you're the seller, if she's the seller, Craig, she can't go out there and then say, oh, I've got some money in a lease option. Don't worry, I'll let you buy it and I'll pay those people off. Can't do it. That
Yeah.
person actually has the right to purchase, exclusive right to buy the property. Now, if December 31st next year goes past and that person doesn't actually purchase, they not only lose the option fee because it's non-refundable. She purchased the option, she just didn't exercise the option. Okay, but the seller can say, well, your lease is up too. You've got to go. You know, so they got nothing. So the benefit to the buyer is in a lease option, the price is locked in at today's value, right? The price is locked in today's. Now, this may today be a benefit to your seller because there's a higher probability prices will drop in the future. We don't know. They might not drop at all, but there's a high probability prices will drop in the future. So your seller could be utilizing a good effort, a good tactic right now to hedge against inflation, right? And hedge against recession too. The challenge is did you know the majority of lease options do not work out? Most people get into lease options do not end up buying the property.
No, I didn't.
It's the majority. So a lot of investors use this as a strategy because they know they get an option fee, $5,000, for example, that's non-refundable. They get that money up front. They get rent that's 100% their own. And because the person has so much at stake and they're thinking like an owner, they're going to take care of the place better, right? So lease options can work very well for the seller. For the buyer, the benefit is, again, the price is locked into today's value. It gives them a year to get their credit restored. And their main creditor is now going to be this owner who they paid every single month. Okay. So there's benefits to both sides, but there's also risk, you know. I would definitely, this is my personal opinion. I'm not making any statement or any condemnation of any other type of training or program, but I would not do rent to owns, and that's forever. Okay. That's permanent. I would do lease option, and I have done them in the past. I've been on both ends of lease options, right? But the rent to own, when I learned about the law, I realized I'm not going to do a rent to own, you know. I'm either going to rent it or I'm going to sell it, and in some cases do a lease option. So any case, if you want to get her on a call with me, I don't mind. We can get her on a call. We could, you know, look at some examples, but I don't know her inventory. It's single family homes is what it is.
Yeah, it is.
What's the average price?
160, like
Okay.
160, 169.
Gary,
Yes, sir.
what I used to do when I was building, mainly when I first started out, and it all depends on the builder's pockets, is I would sell a house and I would hold a second mortgage, which of course has to be filed after the first mortgage, for my profits. So the
Okay.
bills were paid, everybody was paid, but my profit was taken as a second mortgage, and it was a balloon loan, 2 or 5 year balloon loan
Okay.
on the property.
I like that. And because the thing is chances are more likely they're going to keep up with the first mortgage. And if they don't, you just cure the first mortgage and then you have the right to foreclose, you know?
Correct.
So, and probably and what was your average profit margin, would you say?
Around 25%.
Okay. So depending on the price of the house, it could be substantial. I mean, $1 million house, that's a lot of
Well,
money.
back then they were anywhere between 150 to 190-ish.
Yeah.
When I started.
So if one did default, it's not like gonna knock you out of it. You have other projects, other places you built and things like that. And
Right. I never had anybody default because I always had the balloon loan on it. They always paid me off before they went into foreclosure.
oh God, there you go. So thanks, Michael, for sharing that. And so Craig, chances are in today's market, she could rent her properties out and maybe get $1,300 a month, you know, which is probably more than enough to cover her cost and pay if she has any loan any debt herself for materials and labor, stuff like that, she could probably pay them. But I would just do like a decision matrix or have her do a decision matrix where she's comparing lease option with rent to own and just plain old straight renting, you know? And then
Got
weigh them all out. Did I ever show you that decision matrix before?
No. And the
Right.
biggest thing is, you know, with the lease option, she was trying to figure out the commission to an agent. And I didn't really know, but I kind of gave her a scenario of what I thought.
Mhm.
You know, if she did the lease purchase and, you know, asked for we figured out about $8,000 for the 160, 5% of the cost. She would take half of that, like, so just say 4,000,
Mhm.
and then the other 4,000 would be split between the two agents. And if it was just me, I would even take, you know, a little less than that, that 4,000.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna put on my broker's hat
Okay.
and my business owner's hat. Even though a lease option technically isn't like a traditional sale because she's not getting paid all up front, she still is entering into an agreement. Okay. And whatever you're normally would ask 6%, for example, you would still command that.
Okay.
I know I know what you're thinking is I used to do the same exact thing, you know, with my clients early on. And my broker kept saying, well, you don't have to do that. You still marketed the property, you still worked hard and all that. And he was right. So if you think about the way our contracts are written and the state laws, code of ethics and all that, did you know that it actually never says explicitly that you will sell the property for 6%? What it says is you will market the property. And when it does sell, that's when you get compensated, but you're
Yeah.
being paid to market the property. So you're still working hard, right? You're still doing the same amount of work. So same thing in commercial. When there's a commercial lease, let's say commercial agent gets 6% on sales. Nowadays some of them are asking 10%. They would get the same percentage on the lease. Yep. So if you have a 10-year lease, that's $100,000 a year, that's $1 million in rental income, that's $60,000 commission to the agent. But a lot of agents will think, well, gee, I'm only going to get paid on the first year, right? Nope, you get paid on the entire. That's why commercial leases are so nice to work with, you know. But on the residential side, yeah, if your client leases or does a lease option, you should be paid based on what that the purchase price is supposed to be a year later. But
Okay.
you can now. I don't recommend this, but this is probably what's going to happen. The seller's going to say, well, I can't afford to pay you now. I don't have enough money coming in to pay you. Then you can say, well, I'll take half now. And then when that person does buy the house, I'll take the other half. And then you're taking risks that they actually will buy the house,
Gotcha.
you know. But I would definitely, you definitely deserve everything you get. You know, it's compensation is business. And I know a lot of agents that make cuts, you know, all over the place. I mean, it's just like regular habit. And it's a habit you form. And as soon as you do it the first time, it gets easier to do it the next time. And it took me a while to finally realize, you know, they'll keep asking because clients are going to do that. You know, that's just part of the nature. They want to cut their costs as much as possible. But it's okay to stand your ground and say, you know, really, this was a business for me too. I mean, this is how I make my living, just like you're an accountant or you're a dentist or you're a carpenter. I mean, you want to get paid for your efforts, and I'm still working here, you know.
Gotcha.
Usually people understand that, you know, when you put it in those so many words, but once you start to protect your boundaries, what's interesting, what happens is a lot of people will think, well, I'll lose clients, but you really don't. What happens is the ones who are really good business people, you just elevated your level of worth in their eyes. You know what I mean? You raised your value in their eyes.
Gotcha.
And you'll attract clients. Like for me, it was the dentists and the engineers primarily, and then other people too. But those two groups worked well with, and they were business owners and you know, professional people. And I just remember thinking this is a lot easier than all the no money down people. I was working with all the no money down agents or clients in the beginning because that's who's in the investor groups. A lot of them, I didn't know any better. And it was frustrating because those paydays were small, but I landed that first dentist, and I got a chiropractor, and I thought these guys do it differently. And I even had one guy say, hey, if you're good, I'm going to pay you, and I got bonuses on things. I even got cut in on deals too. I had one guy give me a share of the property, like on the deed, excuse me, in lieu of my commission. And when he sold it, I was guaranteed to get paid. I thought that was pretty awesome,
Oh, yeah.
So, but that's how when you show them your stuff and you got the tools and the strategies, believe me, the really smart ones will keep working with it because most other agents don't have this stuff. They're just kind of winging it,
Yeah. And that's my hopes, because she has another agent that's out there. She's kind of giving, I don't know, a couple of agents a shot to sell them.
Yeah.
And I want to be her guy,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, just know this, as the market turns, hopefully it's not going to be that bad. It won't be as painful, I hope anyways. But if it does, a lot of the agents are going to leave, and all the stuff that we've been going through the last couple of years, it's going to change dramatically. Was anybody around back in like 2007, 8, 9, 10, 11? Anybody remember what that was like?
Yeah.
Yep. Heading into it, very painful. Coming out of it, it was like Christmas time, because we were the only agents that left in the business. As the business picked up, we were getting all the deals, and then gradually everybody gets their license. It's the same cycle over and over again, but the key is to not just survive, but thrive. And working with investors is one of the key components to that strategy, because when the market does turn, that business keeps on trucking right along, In fact, it usually increases a little bit, but the owner occupant business, that's what drops off. That's why all those agents leave, because they didn't add this to their model early enough, but they never did at all, And what's really cool about that, if you're in with the builders too, see the builders, remember the builders that study the market, they understand, well, I'm going to shift to affordable housing these next 2 or 3 years. They're still going to be around. They're going to want to get back to building luxury homes. Believe me, that's where they make their big money. So build those relationships now, while they're doing the, affordable housing, and keep those relationships. Coming out of the recession, you'll be in pretty good shape,
Yep.
So, okay, good. Anybody else?
Gary?
Hey, Kathy. Mhm.
Can I ask a question to go off of Craig's on that lease purchase?
Mhm.
What is the typical percentage for that option fee?
It varies. I know for me, we always tried for 5%, but let's face it, 5% of $100,000 is only 5,000, but 5% of 500,000, you're getting us some big money now, 25,000,
Okay,
So always try for that. If you're on the selling side, that's what you try for. If you're on the buying side, you try to knock it down as much as possible. But I personally, I'm going to speak from the seller's point right now. I know people that have gone down to 1%. That's not enough. That's not enough to hedge the risk. I think maybe 3% is the minimum I would ever go as a seller or representing a seller.
right.
But definitely try for the 5. And you'd be surprised when people, they can come up with the money, the cash, they'll get it, borrow it, get it from a relative or something. The problem is if they need a lease option, it's because something's going on financially.
Sure.
They're
Sure.
stretched beyond they have too much debt, or their credit score is dropped or something like that.
Yeah.
And they need time to correct that. And that's what they need. But as I used to be skeptical in the beginning, when I first heard about it, I'm thinking, well, why would anybody do this? And there's all kinds of scenarios, and it happens all the time. You'd be surprised,
Yeah. And I know Kay's trying to get your attention about, or somebody's attention in terms of surveying. So she's got a
Oh, hey, Kay.
question.
Yeah, I have a question. What should it cost if someone has some acreage and they want to break it up into small lots? And then what does it cost to actually add utilities to it if you want to separate it out into 2 lots or 5 lots?
Well, I tell you what, that's definitely a Michael Essery question. I've done it before, but it was my own property.
Mhm.
And believe it or not, the attorney's fees and all that rezoning crap, and that was real expensive. The survey was maybe $500 or something,
Unless you got time, I would not suggest you get in doing it, except I would assist in it. It is a very complicated. For instance, when we did the subdivision, we bought, I think it was 5 different owners to get enough land to be able to develop, because we had swamp land we had to work around for drainage. And then we had to go in phases, engineering and everything together, and take it to the city. That cost a bunch of money. That was after we bought the property on a prayer that we were able to do it. Then we had to go back and forth. It took almost 2 years to get the first phase up and ready so we could start doing underground. The others went a little bit easier because that was in Osceola County, because once we knew what they wanted and they knew what we wanted to do, the planning was easier. But it takes quite a bit of money before you dig the first dirt.
Okay.
And it takes a lot of time. So I probably today would not do it. I would assist in it, but I would make the buyer do the work, because they really need to know what it is. Now, there are companies, engineering companies, that will handle all of that for them. But you got to have pockets to do it.
Mhm. Yes, subdividing, when I did it, we had to have a hearing, public hearing, like
Yeah.
the community, right? You notify them, they can all come to this hearing and they can say, hey, we know Gary, this was a great deal for the area, or they would say, we like Gary, but we don't want all those people in this area. We don't like this program, and they'll fight it, you know?
Yep.
And you gotta
One
have
of the I don't know if you ever heard of Wedgefield out there in East Orlando by the power plant. A lot of land scams went on out there, and we bought land, but you had to have a 5-acre tract. Some of the land was 1.5 acres sold, 2.5, stuff like that. So we had to we bought on tax deeds, dirt cheap, but then we'd have to pay a fortune for the lot next door to be able to build a house on that property. And we'd have to go before the board, which was easier to combine 2 deeds than it was to separate deeds. And then we had to go for the board, they had a hearing, and that usually took 4 or 5 months, depending on how often the board met.
and cost. I mean,
Yeah.
there's some municipalities going and doing a board hearing is $300. Other areas, 750 minimum.
Yeah, they charged us to be before the board. I mean, back then it wasn't a great deal, $100-200, but there's hidden costs that people don't realize it's involved into.
Mhm. Yep.
Hey,
And-
Kay, is this that property that you have the multiple houses on that you're talking about? We can't hear you.
Yeah, I have that property, and then I have some that I own personally that I'm thinking about subdividing, but there's no utilities to 2 acres, well, to 4 of the 6 acres. So I just was curious if there was a rule of thumb, or, what you would pay to get it done per square foot or per linear foot or whatever like that.
Well, there's
know
2
that-
things. There's the tap in, and then there's the leak. Like, you got to run whatever you're going to build. It could be 200 feet. It's going to, every foot you dig and you put the gravel in, all the perforating, all that stuff's going to cost per foot. But the tap in, I mean, Michael, I don't know what it's like in Florida, but I know when we tapped into like gas, I mean, that was a big deal. Water, that was a big deal,
Yeah, it's like sometimes I built properties, and we built a house on generators, and it was 6-7 months, 8 months later before the power poles got brought out. So that was in some rural areas. But there's always connection fees. If you need a pole, you have to pay for the pole, the power. There's unforeseen expenses to build on a vacant lot. Connection fees to the water, connection fees to the sewer. So there's a lot of hidden costs, which when you go, if you have a lot, you need to get involved with the zoning department, building department, and your utility companies. If you have a well, if you have a septic, there's all these fees that are hidden that people don't realize into the cost of building that home. So those those are built in. Not only that, there's impact fees, which can run 10, 20, $30,000, which are, you're paying school, roads,
Mhm.
things like that, that really you get no benefit out of it to build a house.
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes it's the road fee for the area too.
Well, that's part of the impact fee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put in your driveway to do a cut in the curb. Also, there's certain parts of the country now, like in Florida, depending on the size of the project, you may have to do an environmental study. And on top of that, a protected species study. You know?
Yeah,
So,
here, if you have turtles on the property, you better pray no one finds out, because they stop you, they come in, they evaluate it, determine if they can move that turtle. If they can, then they come in with a crew and you pay for all of that.
Mm.
If they can't move it, then they give you a certain requirement that you have to build distance away from that mound, turtle mound.
Wow.
And
Mhm.
if you're building on cow land where there used to be cattle and orange grove land, those are two of the biggest areas where the turtles habitat were, because it's sandy soil.
Yep. I would definitely recommend, Kay, if you know like an engineer or surveyor, or even somebody at the city that we used to call the city county, well, usually they're combined, but somebody in that department, you know, just tell them you're looking at doing this and you want to find out everything that's involved and what the costs are up front, and what would they recommend, you know, that you do to start this thing. Make them a partner, like you're looking to them for help and advice, because sometimes those people are real busy and they're sometimes can be not friendly, not mean, but they're just going to assume you know what you're doing, and they don't care if you make a mistake or not, because they're busy and you're taking up part of their time. Sometimes you run across that, but I would definitely make them one of your friends, because they won't break rules for you, but they'll help you through the process, you know. At the end of the day, quite frankly, I had an attorney I used, and he's unfortunately no longer with us, but um, he would sometimes just go out and do all that front end, you know, get the people lined up and help pave the way, you know. So if you do have a friend, somebody who's an attorney, especially if they do title work, for example, sometimes they've done work like this. That's what I found. A lot of those guys, if they've done title business, they've been involved with rezonings and consolidations and things like that. There's other things too. I mean, like if a road is going to be eliminated, that you'd be surprised at what it takes to eliminate a road, even a road is not even being used, you know, like an alleyway, for example. You can't just go and do it, you know?
If you call the zoning department, you probably can go in there or talk to them and ask them for recommendations of what companies assist and do the process for zoning and development and stuff. They probably got people they like to work with, and if you get one of those companies, it'll be a lot smoother for you. That's what I ended up doing in Osceola County.
Yeah.
Might be a good reason to bring donuts and coffee.
Sure. In fact, they usually like croissants, because they holler and scream about the donuts being fattening when they eat them. So croissants don't seem to meet them as bad. And most of the inspectors, I was one for 6 months, we get fat because all you're doing is riding around in a car.
And croissants are terribly fattening. They're delicious though.
They are, but it doesn't register in their brain as to how bad they are compared to the sugar donuts.
Boy, speaking of donuts and croissants, anybody getting hungry besides me?
Yeah, I got a coffee cake in there.
Yep.
Thank
me-
you for answering that. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Guys, I gotta go.
Thanks. Hey, Michael, thanks for contributing so much on that, man. I appreciate it.
All right.
Okay. Let me just check the chat box here real quick, guys. I don't know if we're able to adjust our real flow access, but when I last used it, I could adjust for your market cost for material and labor. Oh, you could. Thank you, Kathy. I thought that it did that. Thank you for bringing that up.
But it's been a few years, so I don't know if our access works that way on your program or not.
It's the same exact. Yeah, it should. Yep.
Okay.
And Charles, I'm sorry, Charles, I'm just seeing this. Is Airbnb still, will still be profitable? Yeah, this is my opinion, Charles, but I think Airbnb is firmly entrenched as a industry standard now, and it's proven to work in almost all markets. It's crazy because typically you'd want to be in an area that's a combined destination area, like vacation travelers and business travelers. So no matter what, you have both types of consumers for your Airbnb. But I've seen properties like up in Pittsburgh, example, that do really, really well. Now, Pittsburgh is a very stable economy. They have multiple industries and they have 3 major sports teams. So that's why they're able to do so well with Airbnb. You know, they don't have a beach, but they've got 3 major sports teams and they got a solid business area. So, and the other thing too is when the economy turns down, believe it or not, people will still pay for entertainment, alcohol. There's a famous saying, doesn't matter how bad the economy gets, people will still pay for lipstick and liquor. So when it comes to people, they might not, do as big a vacation or as many vacations. But Airbnb still should be a pretty good bet. And for me, it's corporate housing. And we've spoken about that in the last year. Corporate housing is your business traveler long-term. They're not there for 3 days. They're there for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. And they'll rent a room in a house because they don't want to be in a hotel anymore. Or they'll rent a little studio apartment and pay a much higher monthly rate for 6 months as opposed to locking into a year-long lease or worse yet, stay in a hotel. So corporate housing is, I'm pretty excited about that. I will tell you this, guys, I don't want to scare you, but the long-term traditional rentals, the leasing to a family for a year, I just don't think I'm going to do that anymore. There's some crazy things we're seeing out in the world right now with rules and laws and politics. I mean, in Portland, and actually, I think I don't know if Lisa or Teresa, you're here. If you notice, Teresa, I think I heard what they did in Portland, they're doing now across the state, which is if you're a landlord, you own a rental, and through no fault of the renter, the renter is required to leave, like you're not going to renew the lease because you'll remodel the house and sell it. Whatever requires the tenant to leave, and it's not the tenant's fault. It's not like they're getting evicted. You, the owner, have to pay for their moving costs, their relocation costs. The owner has to pay for the tenant's relocation costs. I know some people might think, well, that's a nice thing to do, but when you think about that and logically and think through all the ramifications, that's disastrous economically. That kills the landlords are just regular folks just like us. I mean, I've been the one, believe me. And we have problems just like everybody else. But when somebody does that, I mean, that's just killer. So that's why I'm going with the shorter term, corporate and Airbnb, mainly corporate for me. Teresa, are you
Yes.
still on?
I am. And Gary, check with your hospitals and your medical centers too for traveling nurse programs. You can
Yep.
get your rentals set up in their program too, which is really great. They're kind
Amen.
of that short term. Yeah. And as far as Oregon, I haven't heard too much on that side. On the California side, during COVID, of course, it was a mess trying to get a renter out when a landlord was selling a home. So yeah, it's just the laws are changing all the time, and they're always to the benefit of the tenant.
Yep. It's a shame. I mean, I'm sorry to say it. I just have to be honest with you. We still need housing. We need family, couples, young people getting out in the workforce, single people still want to rent their own place for a year. I'm not saying that everybody else shouldn't do that. I'm just saying for me, I've been doing it for so long, and I'm just choosing a different exit strategy for any properties I get. That's really what I'm saying. But that is how I got started out. I did hundreds and hundreds of those, thousands of them actually. And did well and got all this gray hair. Here it is. See, it's growing, it's expanding. But in any case, I think it's a great way to start in the business, but I would definitely you know, for anybody that's been at it for a while, maybe look at corporate housing. By the way, I should tell you, Dan Levy is almost finished with the hub and the portal for what we're calling a Med Traveler. It's a portal for traveling medical people like nurses who need temporary housing. And he's already got the first property up and running in it. It's just the web presence isn't complete yet. He had to switch developers. But as soon as that's done, we're going to bring him on and show it to you. And if anybody wants to participate, we're going to expand that nationally, you know? So, and if anybody wants to do a project like that, you definitely need to speak up, you know? Hey, Kay, all right, good. Yeah, I'm telling you, I mean, there's more to it than what I'm saying right now. Just know that that's coming down the road. And we have 5 sectors identified: medical, travel, entertainment. So I don't know if Randy Weaver's still on travel, entertainment, needs short-term housing, oil and gas, like industrial type stuff. That's a sector. High tech, you know, software developers, hardware people, that kind of thing. And then business management / executive. Those are the 5 main sectors we've identified. And we're going to build a portal for each one of those that the main hub supports. So a little bit complex. It's just like anything that turned into a much bigger project than we thought. But the good news is the initial one is actually working quite well. So I'll keep you posted on that. And that's something you can share with your clients. And if we develop a portal in your area, you'll be first to market. You'll be able to participate in that and the profit of it, you the agent, in addition to your commissions. Okay. So
I met a lady this weekend. I was showing her and she sounded a little bit like an investor. And she was a teacher and she was starting a new company called Nesting Nomads. And she wanted me to show her some rentals. And I said, well, why don't you just buy instead of renting? But she was going to rent and then furnish them herself and then go after corporate travelers, just like you're talking about.
yeah, it's one of the fastest growing sectors and has been. And my only regret is I wish we could have moved much faster on it, because you want to be first to market as much as possible. And we missed that edge, but it's still the older traditional corporate housing model. It's just archaic. They take these old hotels, convert them to little studios, and think, you know, 55-year-old business executives are going to want to live in a dorm like that. That's like dorm type living. No, they don't. They want to be in a nice home in a nice neighborhood, right? With a deck and a yard and a kitchen and a living room, things like that. That's what they want. So we're going to give it to them, you know. In any case, hey guys, I'm starting to get kind of tired here, but any other final thoughts, questions, comments, suggestions? Oh, we're going to give you a survey about our website. We're looking to redesign it to make it easier, because we know there's a lot out there. It's just like a ton of content, and it is organized, but it doesn't mean it's organized the best way. So look for the survey. We want your feedback on what you want, what you would like to see as far as its ability to be navigated, functionality, things like that. And also we're going to start once a month asking you what classes you want to see in the upcoming month. We plot them out a month in advance, and stuff changes. Like tonight, the hurricane, Andrea was nervous about it, and she's new to hurricanes. And I said, look, just take care of your family and we'll have it another night, you know. But in any case, we want to know what you think about classes too. So keep an eye out for those 2 surveys. The more you participate, the more feedback we have, and the more we can continue to develop things for you, you know. So
Thank you.
you're very
Thank you.
welcome.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you
Bye,
guys.
Great
everybody.
class.
Thanks, Gary.
Okay.
Yeah, great class, Gary. Thank you.
You're very welcome. You guys have a wonderful night. Have a wonderful week. I don't think we have a Wednesday night this week, if I'm not mistaken. But take care of yourselves. God bless you and your families, and we'll see you next Monday.
Okay,
Well,
thanks. Bye.
bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.